Hello and welcome to Cornish Walking Trails. Today we've come to Porthleven.
Paradise private beach.
This is going to be a quick video. We've picked up this today. It is a Porthleven town trail. We're going to pick out 3, maybe 4 items in here. Just have a quick wander around and tell you a bit more history about them. Porthleven is on the south coast of Cornwall near Helston. Hello, join us in Porthleven. A bit breezy today, hope you can hear me. Just walking out to the end of the pier. Let me show you this. This is Porthleven Town Trails put together by the local council. So we're going to work our way through some of these. We won't do it all, save some for next time. And hopefully give you a bit more information about Porthleven that you may or may not already know. Porthleven, what is the first thing you think of when you come to Porthleven?
A ship in.
Fish and chips?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the building you think of?
The Bickford Smith Institute. It's the one that looks like a clock tower.
At the end of the harbour.
It's pretty iconic. In most of the storm videos you watch down here,
yeah,
it's usually featured in it, isn't it?
Sprays of sea breaking behind it on that beach, isn't it, back there? So we're going to have a look at the Bickford Smith Institute. It's not always been there. Unfortunately you can't go inside, but we've got a little bit of detail and we've got a bit of information about before it was the Bickford Smith Institute.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
Oh, I will.
It's a wonderful building, Sarah.
It is. It was opened in December 1884. A public tea was held at 5 p.m, after which the building's benefactor, William Bickford Smith, gave a speech on education before the Porthleven band played up a storm. Well, that looks like a jolly fine place to sit. So we have our Cornish Harbours book by Roland Roddice with us today. He visited several Cornish harbours and compiled it into a book. He got talking to one of the locals, Mr. Frank Strike, who was a councillor and historian. Where the institute now stands was the old Fisherman's Arms, though some say it used to be called the Shipmonger's Arms. At the back of the inn there was an old brew house and leading from it an underground passage well known to smugglers. The first customs officer to come here was one William Odgers, and in 1769 he was shot dead by a smuggler who found him snooping about in the passage. It was actually opened, and it says here, as a reading room and library for the furthering of scientific knowledge and literacy.
It's a beautiful building, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Looks like a miniature sort of Big Ben, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but it's under the sacred church.
Well, you can see why. It does look like a church, doesn't it?
Yeah, with a tower and everything. But you can't go in there at the moment, unfortunately. But no evidence is there of a pub or a brewery or a smuggler's passage to the beach.
That's all gone, isn't it?
Yeah. It's quite lovely here today. Just sat here watching the rollers gently break. The sun is really warm for October. Quite surprising. We've both been caught out. It's too warm. Might even have to have an ice cream. I have a challenge for you.
I like a challenge.
Let me read this to you.
Go on then.
It says, did you know on the side of the institute you'll find a bronze plaque commemorating Guy Penrose Gibson, the commanding officer of the dam busters during World War II?
Ah.
Did you see that plaque at all?
No, I didn't. I'm going to have another look.
Oh, let's go and have a look for that. That's got to be there.
Yeah. Are we gonna bounce our way over there?
Bounce?
Yeah. No?
Oh, like the sandbusters from.
Yeah.
No, I've got too much sand in my shoes to weigh me down. Have you found it?
I have. It says here, in
Oh,
honour of
yeah.
Wing Commander Guy Gibson, Officer Commanding 617 Squadron Bomber Command, Royal Air Force, later known as the Dam Busters, who carried out the daring and successful bombing raid on the German dams of the Ruhr in 1943. It says that Guy's mother was a member of an old Porthleven family of master mariners, and Porthleven was Guy's English home.
Oh, well, I never knew that, did
No.
you?
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. Where next?
Terrace.
Okay. Bayview Terrace?
That's it.
Up here. So we're now here at the entrance of Bayview Terrace. And it says in here, the curved white terrace of Victorian townhouses points to a prosperous and affluent Porthleven at the turn of the 20th century. The buildings with their bay windows and gables, each featuring a Cornish coat of arms, are Grade 2 listed. Completed in 1905, these residences have stunning views taking in the entire harbour area. Hence they're called Bayview Terrace. I know what you're reading at. It's that bit at the bottom. It's great, isn't it?
I love old photographs.
Yes.
And that's beautiful, isn't it?
It is outstandingly
So apparently
gorgeous.
there was a temperance tea room on the end here,
wow.
which is that one, which is where we are right now, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so there's our end of terrace tea room. It's now a house by the looks of things. Look at that. They are so regular, aren't they, in their symmetry? And the colours are beautiful. So let's have a little wander. There's a lovely raised pavement in front of their gardens, and you kind of get that lofty feeling as you look down over the harbour. I do like walking along here. You're almost looking down on everybody, because not many people look up, so you can see what's going on. When you look down years ago, there would have been groups of men pulling boats out of the harbour. They couldn't leave under sail, so the men used to pull them along all the way out to the end of the harbour wall. So each gable's got the Cornish 15 balls in a shield.
It's lovely detailing, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Very intricate, and some people have picked it out, and some people have painted it the opposite way round. Isn't that brilliant? Look, there's this pair of semis have done it the opposite way round, haven't they? I mean,
Yeah, the actual detailing under the bay window.
Yes,
Yeah.
some have made the white on the flat bit, and some have made that the dark colour.
Remind me of those like stamps you can get, you know, where you carve them out.
With ink.
With ink.
Yeah.
They look like that. They've
And then
dotted them
they've
on.
got the reverse going on. Like a negative photo, isn't it? They are handsome properties.
Is that what they call an oxymoron? So you're eating ice cream and you got coffee.
Yeah, but the coffee helps with brain freeze.
So it's the middle of October.
I know.
And it's really warm out there, isn't it?
It's too.
Yeah, I know.
It's shorts and t-shirt weather. Do you want me to hold that for you, Danny?
I left my glasses at home. Back a bit. Back a bit. That's it. I think we should talk about the harbour.
I do too. Is that how they are.
Well, possibly.
30 foot 10 inches.
So these basically go down between the gap in the breakwater, is it, to prevent bulkheads?
So stop the waves coming into the inner harbour.
So would it be fair to say that Porthleven's history is intrinsically linked to its harbour?
I would absolutely agree with you on that one. It is one of the few refuges now between Penzance and then I guess you're looking at Mullion, but it does depend when they were built. Not quite sure which order they were built in, but this is obviously a significant safe harbour for ships in bad weather. We get awful southwesterlies that just drive boats into this coastline and have done for many years. So they decided to build a harbour here after the wreck of the Anson. Well, it says here in 1811 they started to map out the harbour and breakwater here, and over the years there was improvements, like the inner harbour was put in, the wall that we're actually sat on now, this was put in by Harvey and Co. And if you want a date, I can quickly get it. 1855 he put this in, and this was actually the saving of the harbour. This is when it began to make money, because they were able to stop the tide and the big waves coming in. They put the bulkheads in the gap, and then the ships and the inner harbour was safe from the westerlies.
So it did say that at its very, very peak there was over 200 boats in this inner harbour, and you could actually walk all the way across, just walking on the boats.
And if you look at their town trail, there is a fantastic photograph there, and it says at its busiest Porthleven harbour could hold up to 200 boats, and like you say, it said you could walk across the harbour without getting your feet wet.
What are you reading from?
I am reading from Rodis's Cornish Harbours book again.
Same
so
book.
I've come back to this book.
Yeah.
And he was told about the good old days when there were large shipbuilding yards in the village making vessels for the East Coast fishermen and the Hudson Bay Company. In those days, the men of Porthleven had the reputation of being especially fine craftsmen. He was also told about the importing of timber, coal, cement and bricks, and the exporting of china clay. All this, of course, used to be done by sea and on a large scale. Now, that's in 1951, it's done by lorry, if done at all, and on a far smaller scale. They also used to bring in limestone by cargo boat, and it was burnt in a lime kiln just over there. Cornwall has a very acidic soil, and if you want to grow fruit like plums or cherries, you've got to make the acid more alkaline in order to have a successful harvest, which is why we needed limestone.
This book's from the 50s, is it?
Yes, now you can spot the Bickford Smith Institute with its clock tower there and the harbour breakwater. This is the beach we were on earlier. Now, if you notice, there's a horse and cart. So what they're doing down there is to collect sand, which before we had access to limestone in Cornwall to neutralise our acidic soil, they used to put sand on the soil.
Oh, what, to fertilise it?
Yes, so of course sand is made from shells, it's broken down, so it's got lots of calcium carbonate in it, and that's how they neutralised our acid soil down here. Just before we leave the section about the harbour here at Porthleven, let me just read out this little bit. It's when he's talking again to Mr. Strike, and he says, before our harbour was built, the land around here was simply a bog and just a river and an old stone causeway cutting across it. What is now the outer harbour was known as Johnson's Cove, and the boats used to be stranded there and hoisted up the cliff by a winch, a good 30 feet or more. So
wow,
it's really changed, I feel, since they put the harbour in. So having this harbour here really made Porthleven affluent.
it did, and it's good to see that there's still a very
Substantial,
buoyant.
yeah.
Buoyant. Okay, no pun intended. But a buoyant fishing industry here.
Yeah.
Just look in there. There's lots of fishing boats there. The little
Yeah.
small crafts, and there's some pleasure boats there as well. But
And bearing in
still
mind,
busy, isn't it?
It's October, and a lot of people take the boats out of the water for winter to keep
Yeah.
them safe, don't they? So there are a surprising amount of boats in there, actually.
So I do know two interesting things about the harbour here.
Go for it.
Right. So So when this was built, right, early 1800s, they reckon that some of the French prisoners of war from the Napoleonic Wars helped to dig out the harbour here.
Yes.
And also the outer harbour that you've talked about, that outer harbour wall where we were first of all in the video. Apparently the way they constructed that was they started at the end of it, out at sea, and built inwards.
Yes, and it's got a kink for a reason, hasn't it? It kind of breaks the water as it comes through, and it dispels the energy from the wave. And it's quite clever that they just put that little kink in, and that's what helped that wall over every other wall that was tried.
And if you ever stand down there on that pier and you look on both sides, you'll generally see that the way the waves are formed are on one side, and the other side is quite
flat.
calm.
Yeah, it's amazing. They did, well, they obviously did a fantastic job. It's still here today.
It stood the test of time.
Just to recap on our trail, we've done the Bickford Smith Institute, we went up to Bayview Terrace, and then we skipped to the harbour here by my thumb. Andrew's now filming the salt cellar. Of course, it was very important to keep the catch fresh, and they did that using salt, as everybody knows, and it was housed in there. So it tells me in this leaflet that the salt cellar was built in 1816 for the storage of cargoes landed in the port here, including salt from Norway. Scandinavian ships also brought giant blocks of ice stored across the harbour in the ice house. I find that quite amazing, because to me Norway seems like miles away. How did they manage to keep the ice frozen all that time? They must have been colossal blocks of ice. Fascinating.
The building behind you, Sarah, is the old account house. It's now the Customs House Gallery.
Yes.
It's got a date of 1840 above and the initials WEC.
I know, and this made me giggle. So WEC stands for William E. Cudlip, who was the first harbour master here. And in brackets in this leaflet they put, thank goodness that he had a middle initial, or it could look like quite a different building. So instead of WEC, you'd just have WC.
What a wonderful WC it would have made.
It's a very handsome WC.
Isn't it?
It reminds me of a story I once heard about a hotel in New York. I want to say the Astoria. Is there an Astoria in New York?
Yeah.
And the way that the Victorian lady went in to ask to go and use the WC was that they wanted the key to room 100, and that's how it became the loo. Penny dropped it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 100. LOO. Yeah. Reminds me, because years ago, I used to sing.
Yes.
Yeah, I got a lovely voice.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, I used to sing, but I used to find that more and more and more they were getting me to sing outside of toilets.
Why?
Yeah, well, apparently I was singing too many bum notes.
I like the sea glass art there. Lots of sea glass put into a ring. Very clever. I love galleries like this. They put the serious art, beautiful painting there, next to the fun bits. Stargazy pie and pottery. Makes you laugh, doesn't it? You can still nick your ice cream even if you've lost your leg.
You can you? Bless. Lovely yellow boat there. It's actually the gig.
Yes.
That's the Porthleven gig.
And the club is here.
It is, right next to it here. Funny that, isn't it? Yeah. It says a story of Cornish pilot gig rowing. It says the early days, the Cornish pilot gig is a traditional wooden boat rowed with 6 oars and a coxswain at the rudder. It evolved from working gigs that were used for general harbour activities. By the 1700s, ships approaching the rocky coastline of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly paid for local pilots to come aboard and navigate them safely to shore. Crews and their pilots required fast and seaworthy vessels to reach a visiting ship before any rival crews.
So that's the racing element.
The busy maritime waters of the 1800s proved lucrative for many pilots and their crews.
Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't actually know the history of gig racing, did you?
No.
Obviously we didn't. We've learned something today. Porthleven is also excellent if you're into your photography. You've got boats, you've got water, you've got beautiful buildings. The light is amazing, it bounces off the sea as well as coming from the sky. All these steps are chunky. So we're just going to go down to the end of the harbour on this side and take a few shots down there, have a look at the shipping. What a lovely afternoon. We've just kind of pottered around, had a wonderful time with this so far. Let's see what else we can find.
That's what they call the gig economy.
Oh, right.
I don't know.
I haven't got a clue what you're talking about.
Knows anybody else? So that's what they sort of, you know, the youth of today.
Not us.
No, we're way too old.
We're way too old.
They call it the gig economy, don't they?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hustling and that sort of thing, isn't it?
Oh, right, okay. I really don't know what you're on about. So I love this white building here. Some of you might remember it was Rick Stein's at one point, and then COVID hit and he closed a load of restaurants, but our leaflet tells us this is where they stored the china clay for export. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I learnt that they actually extracted china clay from Godolphin Hill and then it was exported from here. I always thought all of the china clay activity was up at St Austell, so I learned something on this channel every single time we go out. Okay, so a moment ago on the other side we were talking about ice coming from Norway. This is the building they stored it in. So we're on the shady side, so I guess you want a building that's got ice in it to be cooler. And it's in this picture here, above the men. It's still got those windows in. I'm still struggling to compute the fact that they brought ice all the way from Norway. That absolutely blows my mind.
Sarah?
Yes?
I cannot believe it's October.
I know.
Do you think this video is going to go with a bang?
Hope so.
Tell me if I'm fired.
You're fired.
This wonderful guide said about the shipping, Sarah.
Well, there's always a lot of speculation about the shipping with tunnels underneath, smuggling tunnels, isn't there? So they're rumoured to lead to caves on the west side of the harbour, but nobody's ever found them. So it makes you wonder if maybe the myths got caught up between the pub that used to be where the Bickford Smith Institute, maybe? Who knows? But it's thought that this is one of the oldest pubs standing in Porthleven. And it goes back to when the village just had 63 dwellings and 220 inhabitants.
Very good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's often been speculated that the shipping was built on top of an old smuggler's tunnel.
Yes. There's something that caught my eye when I was on the other side. It was a chap, a sculpture, it's not in the guidebook, and he sat here. It's brilliant. I'm going to go and have a look. is amazing. It says Waiting for Fish, Dave and Bird by Holly Bendall. Oh, it's done in September 22. I didn't think I'd seen it before. Isn't that lovely? I particularly like his little mate. You can't have a harbour resort without a seagull. That bench behind you,
Yeah.
what do you think it's made from?
That's a substantial piece of timber, isn't it?
And where have we seen those today?
Is it a bulkhead?
I reckon it's an old bulkhead.
Oh, it's very comfy.
Oh, and what's the view like?
Absolutely incredible.
Love that old boy.
Dave and Bird.
Yeah. And here's his view. Ah, fabulous. Final thing in this leaflet, yeah, we've ended up doing it all, is the old lifeboat station here. It's now a gallery and we're too late to go inside, it's shut.
Yeah, all shut, never mind.
So the leaflet contains an old photo and it says during the station's 66-year history, 28 emergency launches were made and 50 lives were saved. And it says the lifeboat house that you see now was opened in 1894 and closed in 1929 when other safer launches further afield had engine speeds cover this treacherous part of the coastline. Prior to this building, it tells me that in 1863 the Porthleven lifeboat was kept on a carriage in a galvanised shed up on Briegside, what is now Claremont Terrace. From there it was pulled by up to 6 heavy horses and launched by tipping it into the water from whichever quay or beach was closest to the stricken vessel. So it sounds a bit like, well, launch it and hope, isn't it? It also says that some of the crew couldn't swim at that point. So I guess these guys were really brave to go out and rescue somebody else. It would have been a heavy sea, no doubt. Gosh, that's remarkable. Tea?
Tea.
Oh no, I should be doing this.
Looking good. It's when Sarah puts the videos together at home. She looks at all the clips and she doesn't know I'm filming this. So Sarah, this one's for you. I just wanted to show you this. Thought it might make you laugh when you're editing the video. I think it's a cider vinegar.
I've really enjoyed this afternoon using this guide to wander around, meander along the harbour here at Porthleven.
If you find yourself with an hour or a couple of hours to spare and you're looking for something to do and you're in the area, it's well worth doing this because you really get a good idea about how Porthleven developed.
Yeah, and it does strip back the history. I'm still blown away from the fact that they brought ice from Norway and it didn't melt.
No, how did that work?
How did that work? So perhaps you can figure it out. Until next time, we'll say goodbye. Bye.
So thank you for joining us. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, then please could you give it a big thumbs up. So it does help us to grow our channel on YouTube. Apparently the more thumbs up we get, the more the YouTube algorithm likes our video and then more people will find our content.
Yeah.
And if you've really enjoyed our video, then please consider subscribing.
It's free on YouTube.
Till next time. Bye.